Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of The Package Tourist, hosted by yours truly, the Package Tourist and the Magical Mystery Tour called Life, Matthew DiBiase. Tonight's guest is two-time Pulitzer Prize nominated author and editor Dino Garner. Dino lives in Montana and has spent the last 25 years editing books, two of which, Aeromasters and Silent Scars, were nominated for the Pulitzer Prize. Dino has also worked as a ghostwriter, writing and editing more than 50 books for clients, many of whom became New York Times bestsellers. Mr. Garner served his country bravely as a U.S. Army Airborne Ranger in the mid-1990s and presently serves as a volunteer mentor to U.S. Army Rangers for the Three Rangers Foundation. Tonight, we will pay tribute to Dino's literary career. Dino, welcome to the show. It's a great honor and privilege to have you here. And I'd like to start off by asking you, will you please tell us about your latest work, Silent Scars, which you co-wrote with Ms. Liz Fetter?
Yes. First, Matt, thanks for having me. Much appreciated. So, Silent Scars, Bold Remedies started off as a little 300-page book. And then Liz got a hold of it and said, here, let's do this, and this. She has a brilliant vision for everything that she and we do together. And I'll just fast forward. It turned out to be a 1,036-page compendium, a Bible about cutting-edge care and healing from post-traumatic stress injuries, or what we call PTSI.
Okay. How did you meet Ms. Liz Fetter? How did you encounter her?
Years ago, we simply got together on one of the dating sites and had a long conversation and decided, this is something made in heaven. So we've been together ever since.
Ah, that's beautiful. Fantastic. Now, Dino, considering your own years of military service, how much of Silent Scars is a personal exploration of your own life experiences and also life traumas?
All of it.
Okay.
I wrote it to heal myself, and so I've tried many of the things that we talked about, the care, and many of the treatments, the healing treatments, so I can talk about those authoritatively, not simply with someone who does research on them, does an analysis, and then reports on it. No, I know about everything that I talk about, that I wrote about in Silent Scars, and Liz, she has the intimate knowledge of those as well.
Okay.
So it goes back a long time. I probably should have sent you a opening chapter to Silent Scars, which is really my story, and then you'd have a much better idea of where it actually started. It was in my childhood, which was, first of all, I have no regrets whatsoever, and I wouldn't take anything back. However, it was a very interesting and violent childhood that led to where I am today.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Oh dear. Dino, for anyone listening out there, how can people overcome PTSD? Can you give us like a thumbnail sketch about what are the best ways, what are the best outlets out there for people who need healing from their own personal life traumas?
Well, first you got to realize that you're not broken. You are dysregulated, because every type of post-traumatic stress trauma has a molecular basis, and that means it can be treated and possibly healed. Not everything can, I'm sorry to say. However, so once you recognize that, what psychiatrists typically tell us, or psychologists, it's all in your head. Well, it's not. In a way it is, biochemically, neurochemically, biophysically, it is. However, there's a molecular basis. So when people understand that, and they break away from the possibility of weaning themselves off of multiple drugs, pharmaceuticals, then I think that they have a standing chance, because then they can seek out help, care, that we have outlined in the book, and start anew. But first you have to recognize that, hey, this is a biophysical and a neurochemical and physiological event. It is not simply some mental or psychological disorder.
Okay. So I'm curious, talking about that, are you basically saying maybe we shouldn't rely too much on antidepressants or meds or something like that? In other words, we need to be more active, and in terms of activity, or in terms of overcoming PTSD, or am I getting that wrong?
No, actually, you're right. However, we need to be careful about telling people or suggesting, hey, simply go off your meds. You can't do that because you have to be weaned off very slowly, or else there will be a terrible rebound effect such that you could be much worse off than you started years ago or months ago, whenever you did start.
Okay.
So what we are saying is that there's a molecular basis for everything, and that it would behoove you to read the book, study it, understand what your options are, and then start seeking assistance. We're not saying stay away from psychiatrists or psychologists. We're not saying don't go on some kind of big pharma medication. We're saying that you need to educate yourself so that you can better understand your condition and realize that it's not simply a disorder. A disorder is something that you manage with some kind of pharmaceutical. But an injury, that's something you treat after you understand it.
Okay. How much is taking positive action important in overcoming PTSD? In other words, taking up something creative, a positive activity. Is that essential in terms of healing from PTSD?
I think it is. Not everybody can do that, though. Not everyone can take it upon themselves to go out and seek help. Sometimes there needs to be some intervention, and in many cases, the interventions have been positive. Others, negative. Things didn't work out well. People died anyway. People committed suicide anyway. But the first step, again, is at least acknowledging and understanding the molecular basis, the biophysical and neurochemical and physiological basis of whatever issue that you have, and then we work from there. But you have to understand that first, and that's always the first step. Just getting basically educated. Not everyone will understand the book. The 1,000-page version, Silent Scars, Liz suggested that we remove the science and the tech, and then not dumb it down, but reduce the tech information, the high-tech information and the science. And so we came out with another book called Healing in Plain Sight, and that's about a 400-page book that has lots of great information. It's just without that overwhelming and sometimes intimidating science, technology, medicine.
Okay. Dino, please tell our listeners where can they find both books, Silent Scars and the second book you just mentioned there. Please, where can they find it?
They're on Amazon. You just look under the title, Silent Scars, Bold Remedies, or look under my name, Dino, D-I-N-O, Garner, G as in golf, A-R-N-E-R, Dino Garner. You'll find those. Plus, I also have the Emerging Science series, or tests. There are 4 books so far, and those are e-books specializing in stellate ganglion block, in ketamine, in how to wean yourself off of antidepressants, and there's another, I just forgot about it. But so far we have those 4 test books, and there will be others forthcoming.
Okay. Let's talk about your other work here. Let's talk about Aeromasters, which was released in 2024. Please tell our audience all about it.
Aeromasters, that's celebrating a century of the American fighter pilot, and that's volume 1. My father was a fighter pilot, so I grew up in the atmosphere, Air Force.
Ooh.
And he was a highly decorated Vietnam F-4 driver as well. So I always wanted to be a fighter pilot. Unfortunately, my mom beat that out of me when she ruined my eyesight at a very young age.
Ouch.
So I went on to do other things, which is perfectly fine. Not a complaint, but it's just a matter of fact. I always still wanted to fly, so eventually I did, starting around 1987, when I got in the back seat of an F-4, and I just wanted to fly one time, but the flight was aborted, and the commander came to me and said, hey, come back next week or in a couple of weeks, and bring a camera this time. And so I bought a camera at J.C. Penney with a credit card that I had just gotten in the mail when I got home from that aborted flight. And it was a Canon T90 with a couple of lenses. And so I went back in a couple of weeks, shot beautiful pictures, and I was never a photographer. And the unit asked to send those to the Pentagon National Guard Bureau. And they used it, and they said, hey, we can get you other flights. So it led to another and another and another. And pretty soon I had flown in the back seat of half a dozen high-performance jets. And I did a first book called Top Gun Miramar, which I really, really disliked. And I said, someday I'm going to redo this. And so fast forward about 25 years, and then I started Aeromasters. And it was about a 700 or 800 page book in the beginning. And then Liz came along, as she does, and with her brilliant vision, she said, let's break this up into 3 books. So volume 1 is, we have about 75 or 80 2-page and 4-page tributes to fighter pilots from World War I to present.
Okay. Dino, please describe the selection process for the aces featured in Aeromasters 1. Were they chosen solely for their number of kills, or were there other factors when featuring these great fighter pilots?
Number of kills? No. In the book, we like to call them victories.
Okay.
It's a bit harsh.
Okay,
but,
sorry.
No, it had nothing to do with number of victories. Those are the people I included were the ones who touched me in some way. Some of them, actually many of those I knew personally, even when I was a boy, because I had socialized with many World War II fighter pilots and also some World War I soldiers, because I grew up in Europe, in Germany. And later on, I socialized with General Kurt LeMay and General Jimmy Doolittle when they lived in Newport Beach, California.
Oh, wow.
That was around 1987. So I knew a lot of these guys.
Oh, wow.
And so these people I chose, there are thousands out there, thousands I could have. I wanted to make this deeply personal for me because these are guys who influenced me, they inspired me, and the ones I knew, they encouraged me when I was a boy. So that was really the main factor, people who touched me in some way. Now, of course, the World War I fighter pilots, especially the founding members of the Lafayette Escadrille, which was America's first fighter squadron in France. They were flying for the French Air Service. I did not know any of those guys, but I have some friends in Colorado who met several of those guys and whose father carried on the legacy of the Lafayette Escadrille and the Lafayette Flying Corps. So I was influenced and helped along by other people as well.
Okay.
To include the various fighter pilots in the book.
Can you name a few? Who are some of your personal faves that are featured in Aeromasters 1? Can you give us a glimmer?
Yeah, Major Raoul Lufberry, he's my hero. He shot down 16 Boche Germans in World War I. He was the highest ranking, or the ace at the Lafayette Escadrille, and then he was absorbed into the 103rd of the U.S. Army Air Corps, not even Air Corps at that time. It was still part of the, I forgot. But when the Americans got into the war in 1917. So, yeah, Major Raoul Lufberry, and that's where he was killed because he was watching another fighter pilot just screw up a mission. So he hopped in his Newport, took off and got shot down, and he fell out of his cockpit because it was burning. I admire him on several levels. He was a fantastic human being by all rights. Everything I've read about him and heard from people who knew him, and he was very humble. I also love this quote of his that I use today when getting criticized or getting castigated by somebody out there. Because he used to get picked on. People were just jealous, personally and professionally. And he would say, "Why should I care? I mean, I know what I did." And it was a very, very humble way of going about it. He didn't get in fights with anybody. He didn't retaliate in any way. He was just very humble. So I love Major Raoul Lufberry. And other guys like Eugene Bullard. He was the first black fighter pilot, American fighter pilot. an amazing history. He was talk about a guy who grew up in a hard scrabble life, and I greatly admired him. I've read at least the manuscript that he had left behind. I've read a couple of other books about him. I can't say enough good things about him. He's just a hero. He overcame difficulties that would have crushed other people, and because he was black, he was also discriminated against. He was not even allowed into the Lafayette Escadrille because of well, I won't get into that. But he lived most of his adult life in France, and he came back to the U.S. where he was working as an elevator operator in New York City, and he died of, I think, a heart attack or at age 61 around 1960. So another great hero. Just these guys are very, very humble and super strong and powerful and inspirational. So other guys in Eddie Rickenbacker, of course, from World War I, everybody's favorite hero. And in World War II, there's Don Blakesley. Don Blakesley, Don Gentili, and dozens of others that they all had the same characteristics. They were super humble. They were great tacticians. They were excellent pilots. Many of them great mechanics as well, and just the consummate warriors. But again, humility was something that ran deep among those guys. And so there were, if I were to open the book right now and point to one of them, I'd say, yeah, that's my favorite one. Then I go a few pages ahead. Yeah, it's my favorite one. So I'd be violating the law of superlatives by saying every single one of those 75 guys is my favorite.
Yeah, I know what Chuck Yeager said. I had the honor of meeting him, at a thing once. I remember in his memoirs, he said, he even got his autograph and all that, on an incredible thrill. He said, aerial combat, of course, is the ultimate flying. That's the way he put it in his memoirs and all that. Yes. Did you ever get that same sentiment from the pilots that you spoke to? The same sentiment?
Oh, always. Yeah. It was really the greatest thing they did with their pants on. Absolutely.
Okay.
And it was probably one of the most difficult things to quit. Those who lived afterward.
Yeah.
Some tried to get into test pilot or being a test pilot, like Don Gentili. Of course, he was killed. Dick Bong was killed.
Yeah.
And it heartbreaking, but I think that they tried to take their fighter pilot careers a little bit too far.
Yeah.
Some of them.
I mean, it's kind of like as an infantry, Audie Murphy. Well, nothing could actually equal the battlefield. Even Hollywood, just can't equal it. It's not the same. Being the ultimate warrior in that sense. So
it's tough. Yeah.
It's got to be disorienting. Incredibly disorienting.
Exciting.
I know. But in that sense. Let's talk about your ghostwriting career. Dino, tell our listeners, what's it like working as a ghostwriter? I mean, how difficult and how rewarding is it collaborating with a renowned personality and transcribing that person's life, their soul, and their accomplishments into print? Please describe that challenge.
Well, first, I love the ghostwriting challenge was a no-brainer for me because I like being behind the black curtain. I don't like being out front. And I like working alone, so I can do my own research, do the writing, and present it to client. So it's easy for me to be a ghostwriter. And I've always professionally lived by the adage, you can do just about anything you want in life as long as you don't care who gets the credit. And if more people live by that, they could do so much more. Okay. And I hope they'll think about that. You can do just about anything you want in life as long as you don't care who gets the credit. Wow. Because most people have this big old damn ego, and they have to say, hey, look at me, look what I wrote, look what I did. I'm on a New York Times bestseller list. Me, I couldn't give a crap. I love the craft of writing. I love creating things. I love giving something to someone and doing something that they didn't expect. And so that, again, it's a no-brainer for me, and it's easy. It's takes a lot of creativity. It takes a lot of emotional energy and physical energy out of me. But I absolutely love it because in the end, I get more from it. So it's collaborating with renowned personalities. Some of it has been fun. I try to make all of it fun. Some are very difficult and just downright pain in the ass to work with, and I would never work with them again, and I didn't. And I was all too happy to finish the book and to see it on a New York Times bestseller list or USA Today bestseller list. That was rewarding, but I just moved on from there. So how is it to, say, transcribe somebody's personal life? Well, I listen well. I'm an excellent listener. And since I was a scientist, I was excellent at details, and I could take lots of information and distill it down to its essence and analyze it to death and then make some kind of sense out of it and then write it out and disseminate it to people. Okay. So it was a natural thing for me because I took a scientific and creative and artistic approach, and still do, to ghostwriting and writing in general.
Can you name some celebs that you ghost wrote for? Just give out a couple names for our audience.
No.
Oh, you're
all
not
under non-disclosure.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. Okay.
In fact, no, not at all. In fact, interestingly, the more exposure their book got, and the more copies it sold, the better it got, the more popular it was, the more distance they wanted from me.
Okay.
And most of them didn't even say, "Hey, thank you," in the acknowledgments, because they didn't want anyone to know, "Yeah, this other guy did this." So, and that's fine with me because I got the experience, and so that was, I was perfectly fine with that.
I know on some covers it said autobiography such and such as told to, so that's not on the cover of the book as told to Dino Garner, nothing like that at all?
No, in fact, I said I would never want anything like that. Okay. I don't want my name on their books. Okay. I would have appreciated thank yous here and there, but no. Now, as far as editing, I edited 3 of Dan Brown's books, Da Vinci Code and Angels and Demons.
Ooh,
and
wow.
Deception Point. Those were fun to do, but it was back during a time when I could contact directly any author I wanted to. And so I chose, say, I don't recall how many, but 5 authors whose books I absolutely loved. I took my favorite book by them, I tore it apart, rewrote it, did a scorched earth edit, and then I submitted it to them, and I got hired by all of them. They said, "Hey, can you do my next one?"
Wow.
I said, I wish I would have had you as my editor.
Wow.
Yeah, so I created that niche for myself by doing just that, by being proactive and just seeing what happened, and they all responded. You can't do that anymore.
Okay. I'm curious, when doing ghostwriting, does the celebrity in question reach out to you, or is it the publishing firm? I'm curious, how does the process work, Dino?
Well, nowadays I'm not sure, but back then it was by word of mouth. Okay. And occasionally a New York trade publishing editor would reach out to me, "Hey, we got this client, would you want to work with him?"
Okay, Dino, let's talk about yourself. Where were you born and raised, and where did you go to school, locally and also in college?
Well, see, I was born in Laredo, Texas, at Laredo Air Force Base Hospital. I was kidnapped by my grandmother, my dad's mom. She was a North Carolina crazy woman, and I don't know how long it was. It could have been 2 hours, it could have been 2 weeks. My mom had relayed the story, but she left out a lot of details because my grandmother and my mom didn't get along at all. And my grandmother, I guess she thought she could raise me better. I think legend has it that she fed me whole chicken and Spam. And then I grew up on the lam with Graham, an outlaw, and that pretty much set the tone for the rest of my life, right up until today. Wow. And I was repatriated after, a couple of weeks, and my dad was already in Germany on his overseas assignment, so my mom and I were flown over there, and so we spent 12 years in Europe, 12 out of the next 14 years, and we had to come back just so my dad could go through training in the F-4 just before he went to Vietnam in 1968.
Wow.
So I grew up in Europe, Germany and Italy, half a dozen different bases, traveled everywhere. And as for university, I went to American University in Washington, D.C., and where I became the first scientist in history to culture shark cells.
Ooh.
And I did that there at Mote Marine Lab. And then when I was 35, I was a researcher and trained in physics and electrical engineering, applied it to different disciplines in the biological sciences. And when I was 35, I joined the Army, and I became an Airborne Ranger with the 1st Ranger Battalion, the oldest one they'd ever seen. And, yeah.
Now, for Airborne Army Rangers, is that something you volunteer for, or you're tapped, or you have to go through a test or something like that? How does that go?
Well, you volunteer first.
Okay.
And then you go through extensive training. I went through basic and advanced infantry training at Fort Benning, and then airborne school. Then after that, it was called RIP. At that time, it's called RASP or some other acronym now. Back then it was RIP, the Ranger Indoctrination Program. Started off with 150 of the toughest kids in the U.S. Army, and we got down to 75, and I was number 2.
Wow.
And then that's when I said, I think I can do this, because I picked things up really, really fast. And so I got my choice of duty assignment, and I chose the 1st Ranger Battalion, Savannah, Georgia. And the guys had already been training for the Expert Infantryman Badge, which is the most coveted badge in the U.S. Army for infantry. And I was supposed to get some scut work, some crappy duty. So I went to the first sergeant and I said, hey, listen, I can do this. I promise I will not let you down. I will not make you look bad. I will make you look good. And he said, okay, let him. And so I came out number 1, 50 out of 50 stations, a score, and got to represent all enlisted Rangers and get my badge pinned on by a guy Colonel Ralph Puckett, whose Distinguished Service Cross was later upgraded to the Medal of Honor just a couple of years ago.
Wow.
He's since, yeah. But so it was quite a career, and I'm glad I got to do these things. Glad I had the background and upbringing I did, the violence from mom and absent dad, things like that, because it prepared me for a life of action and adventure and being really, really smart and having excellent situational awareness.
What division was your battalion part of? I mean, 101st, 82nd. What was your division?
No, it wasn't. It was the 1st Ranger Battalion of the 75th Ranger Regiment.
Okay, so it's not part of any division then, correct?
No, correct.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was a separate special operations unit.
Okay. Describe your work as a biophysicist.
Well, they're biophysicists from the very beginning, because I love physics and math, and so I applied it to just about every discipline I was in, starting out in tissue culture and virology. And biophysics is a really, really loose term. In fact, I was looking it up just yesterday because someone asked me, one of the scientific journals I had submitted a paper to, and they said, what is biophysicist? Well, just about anything having to do with physics, describing anything in biology. I mean, it's such a broad term. So you can have a biophysicist who studies membranes of cells, say the proteins or the ion channels in cells. You can have somebody who studies at the biophysical level, say DNA. And you can have somebody studying individual molecules that are in the electron transport chain, just many, many different things. So me specifically, I was sticking electrodes in brain cells when I was at USC, University of Southern California, and studying mechanisms of memory storage in the cell membranes and within the cell. And after that, I was at the Duke Medical Center and stuck electrodes in cells and studied mechanisms of epilepsy. So I had a lot of different things to do in various disciplines, but it all had to do with biophysics, which was which really prepared me for the work I'm doing now with Silent Scars, Bold Remedies, talking about and doing research. I'm getting back into research at that biophysical level, the molecular level, so that you can actually talk about things, again, at the molecular level instead of at the behavioral level, like the psychiatrists, psychologists typically do.
Okay, Dino. Whenever I interview an author, I always love to ask this standard question. When you were growing up, who were your favorite authors? And of those favorite authors, did any of them light the spark inside you to become a writer or perhaps influence your writing style?
Oh, yeah. I loved Frederick Forsyth. He wrote The Dogs of War. In fact, when I was in ninth grade, I made out a life plan. I was going to be a marine biologist because I read the book Jaws. I love Peter Benchley. His writing, he was a great storyteller. Writing was very, very simple. I loved it. Frederick Forsyth, I wanted to be a mercenary after that. I never really enjoyed Ernest Hemingway, but I like his writing style. It was very edgy and sharp and short, and I love that. Also, my favorite poet was George Gordon Byron, also known as Lord Byron.
Ooh, wow. My favorite, too.
Yeah, my absolute favorite. Good, yeah.
Yeah.
And he, he's been gone for 200 years, but he taught me how to write, and he taught me how to write creatively and artistically. So those are my really favorites. I love James Dickey, who was a fighter pilot, also a great poet. As for other authors, I didn't have any other favorites. I liked the stories. I didn't necessarily care for the authors.
Okay. Dino, what is your next book project and when can we expect its release? That's the last question.
The next book is From Disorder to Injury, and it's all about supporting the notion that we must embrace PTSI, that is post-traumatic stress injury, over PTSD, because it's not a disorder. So that book is going to be a popular book, but it's going to have some good science and medicine and tech in it. And I'm just about done with that. So I'm co-authoring that with a friend and colleague, Dr. Eugene Lipov, who's the pioneer of stellate ganglion block, which is a very, very effective way of treating post-traumatic stress injuries, some of them.
Dino, I want to thank you so much for appearing on my show, and I wish you the best of luck in all your future projects. And let me know when you have something new come out. I want you on my show again, okay?
Thank you so much, Matt. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate your wonderful questions and sharing some of those anecdotes, especially Chuck Yeager.
Yeah. Oh, I was smiled with some of those World War II pilots because I read about them, like the Yablonsky books, as a youth there. So I know McGuire, Bong, Gabreski, and them. Okay. Well, take care. Okay.
Thank you so much, Matt. Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen, for next week's show where I'll be interviewing author Michelle Eads. Thank you and good night.